right, family, here we go. So here's the disc brake setup in the front. I've already removed the wheels. And so here's the brake rotor, if further those that don't know. Now, as I said earlier, you would need a Torx bit number 30 to take out this bolt here, so that when the brake caliper is off, you can now remove the brake rotor from the hub. So this is on there obviously to secure it and to allow less vibration in the brake system. All right, so that's that. So that's what the Torx 30 would be. So here is that, the Torx 30, right? So that's for that. And here is the number 14 bolt that you need to remove here and at the bottom. So there are two. And then also, here are the boots that I was talking about when I explained what tools you would need. This is the boot, a dust boot that's on the caliper. And inside here are the slide pins, and they use the synthetic grease that I was showing you, synthetic caliper grease. And obviously, again, you can see that these are not damaged, swollen, or torn, but using the petroleum-based caliper grease, it will cause this to swell over a period of time and become swollen. Eventually it will burst, and then you'd have to replace the hardware kit. And so we don't want to do that. Again, so these are number 14s, the bolts here. And then I'll go in just a little bit further so you can see that this bolt here, which is the bolt that holds the actual caliper bracket to the spindle, that is a number 18 on this application. And so that's it. So let's get to work. And again, I'm going to use just normal wrench tools. I'm not going to use any electronic tools, so that way we can see exactly what's going on here. All right. So again, here's the number 14. I'm just going to put that on here. I have long reach wrenches just because, you know, just makes it a lot easier if you have leverage to break bolts loose. You don't have to tear your knuckles apart. Had my fair share of busting my knuckles on a lot of jobs, and I don't want to do that anymore. Right? Now, sometimes in these cases, these bolts, when you're loosening here, these will also spin, and in that case, you can either put a wrench on it that matches the size. You can use a pair of vice grips or any pliers that will hold it on while you loosen this caliper bolt. Now, there are several ways to do this. Now, at the bottom, it was spinning, so I can actually show you an example of that. So while I put the wrench on here, that bolt was beginning to spin as I turned. So here is that. Right? See, it's doing it as I turn. But there's a way where you can, if you don't want to fight to get that off, or maybe you're on the side of the road, maybe you have a situation where you don't have the extra tools, what you can do is pull the caliper down, right? And obviously the brake line without damaging the brake line. You can actually slide this caliper out. So you can keep that bolt in and just slide the caliper pin out. As you can see it expanding, so we want to make sure that boot is off so we don't damage the boot, if you can see that, right? And you can take this and just literally slide the caliper right out of there. It's taking me a little bit, and of course, you want to be careful because at this point, this is not really the ideal way to do it, because you don't want to stretch this brake line or this brake hose, because internally, if this brake hose collapses, what will begin to happen is you will have a symptom where you can get brake fluid in but not out, which will make the caliper piston seize onto the brake pad, which will cause damage. So you'd have to replace this brake line or brake hose. Another one would be that you can't get fluid in to the caliper, which then means that it wouldn't depress at all. So you can have a spongy brake pedal. It's not what you want. So ideally, this is not the way to go. But just an example to show you if you got into a situation where you were stuck. Now, again, this is in a situation where, okay, I don't have all the tools. You can safely hang the caliper here, but I'm gonna pull out a hanger because I use hangers to hold these calipers. so that it doesn't drop and that no damage gets done. But that's just for now. Now here is the slide pins. This is where you apply the synthetic caliper grease. You want to wipe this off, make sure all of this is clean. You don't want to reuse any the grease that's there. You want to wipe it clean and then recoat it. With a not too generous, but you want to ensure that it's on there so that when the slide pin goes in, it will slide easily. So as you can see, this one slides pretty simple, pretty easy. No binding. But again, you want to take that pin out, clean off all that old grease, apply new grease, put those pins back in there, make sure they're working, and then that's it. So now the brake pad removal, pretty simple. If it fights you to come out, you can use a flathead screwdriver to get in there and take it out. Right, and that was that. Pretty simple. Now some brake pad sets, when you buy them, they'll come with new hardware, meaning here, brake shims, it'll come with new hardware. And if it does come with the new hardware, my suggestion would be to replace it. If it does not come with the new hardware, what you can do is you can use a wire brush to just clean off the dirt and debris in here. That way, when you put on the new brake pads, the brake pads can slide in and out of here with no resistance. Again, so you have longer brake life. I've seen some techs where just kind of slap them in there and it's whatever. But for the now, it will run okay. But for the longevity, we're just only being dishonest to the customer. That's not what we want. All right. So again, moving on, we'll kind of move pretty fast because this is really, really simple. And then I'll do a video of me installing everything and, you know, cleaning everything up. But all right, so that's that. I'm going to put my bolt to the side. Remember, I said this caliper bracket bolt was a number 18, so I'm going to set my 18 here. I'm just going to get a hanger for that caliper. I don't want nothing to happen. And then we're in trouble. Let's see if I can find what I did with one of my hangers. Let's see, my drawer's a mess. But here is one of the wire brushes that I use to do some cleaning. So I'll set that out too. And then this is one of the hangers that I use for the calipers. Now, what you would do is basically take it, hook it in, and just hang it on the strap. Or whatever is nearest that may be safer for you to do, you hang it. So here it is, hanging on this strut spring, right? Cool. So it's safe, it's out the way, it's not gonna drop, it's not gonna make the hose collapse or damage anything else. Now, with that number 18, I'm gonna go in. This is not the longest 1/2-inch ratchet, but just to give me some leverage. Break that bolt loose. And these are normally pretty tight because they, in some applications, they use Loctite to keep the bolts in there. So I'm gonna break this one free. All right, so that's free. And again, these are the 2 bolts here. Here. Right, so again, normally I would use electric tools or a gun to zip them off and zip them on. But in this case, I'm gonna do it all the way through so that you can see it, you know. And this is usually pretty tight all the way through again because has a little bit of Loctite there, orange. So it's not, it shouldn't be permanent, it shouldn't be extremely difficult to come off, but it's enough to ensure the safety that these bolts don't back out, you know, in your day-to-day driving, because that in itself would be a horror story. Okay. So, those 2 bolts will release this caliper bracket. I'm gonna set that to the side with the bolts. And I usually am very organized with keeping everything together. Also, I'm doing this in my home garage, so hence why you see the jacks and everything's on the floor. Now, for the rotor, we can use a T30 to just knock this out of there. But what I'm going to use is I have a tool that breaks those things free with a hammer. If I can find it, I have lots and lots and lots and lots of tools. So, okay, so here's the one that I have. And this tool would be used to take the bolts off of calipers. Now, in this case, I have an adapter on mine. So I purchased this through Cornwell, but you can buy this on Amazon. You can buy it from Snap-on. You can buy it from Harbor Freight. I mean, pretty much anywhere. Now, this is an adapter because it comes with some vehicle applications have flatheads. Not really. I've never really seen it on any rotors. But the Phillips style, they usually have them. So I'm going to remove the adapter and I'm going to apply my T30 to it. All right, so my T30 is on there now. And all this does is it goes in, and with a hammer, you tap the back of here and it breaks that bolt free. So I'm going to put the camera down just a second to tap it, and then you'll see. All right. Okay, back. And basically what it does is it shocks the bolts on the inside so that it would come loose freely without you have to use a torch. And some applications I've got it where this tool just not working, or maybe it's coming from another repair shop and from the last repair and it's stripped out, and you usually have to use a torch to get them out of there. And then for this one, this rotor is not coming off so easy. So because we're replacing this rotor, we can use a hammer and tap it. And, you know, we can use a really, really big hammer, which is probably really what I should do. But again, just to show you, I'm gonna hit around the hat and be careful to not mistakenly hit any of these studs, or else you're gonna have to replace it. It's not doing anything, so let's get a bigger hammer for a better example. All right, so I have a couple hammers, dead blows, but I'm going to use the sledge so that it's much easier. So here in this application, I'm just going to hit it there on the side. Again, we're replacing the rotor, so I'm not really worried about any damage. If I was going to be resurfacing this rotor, then I would want to look at this debris that we got here, but I would want to be careful in removing it. This way we don't do any actual damage, and we'll be able to use a brake lift and resurface. But in this case, we're not doing that. We're just replacing rotors. Now that we've taken this apart, here's the hub. And here you want to make sure that this is nice and clean. So this surface, right, we can use a wire brush to go in here and ensure that this is all clean, because you don't want any debris to be here. You put the rotor on and it causes any vibrations later down the line. So always want to be clean and neat when you do any of these jobs. And then the final part that I'll show is this brake piston. Caliper piston is going to need to be fully depressed. So basically this piston is all the way in its depressed position so that you can install the new brake pads. Now, everybody's not going to have a caliper piston depressor. So I've seen people use C-clamps, I've seen people be quite creative in tools that they have when they don't have it. But this is definitely a pretty inexpensive tool, and it's pretty much what's required to do it. Like I said, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You may have to go get one from Harbor Freight, or if you have access to a tool truck, you can hop on the tool truck and grab it, whatever. But basically, to get this thing off, you take the brake pad, stick the brake pad in there. Again, so I'm using one hand on my cell phone right now, so not the greatest. But then you would take the tool, and it's fully depressed, and what you would do is just stick the tool in the caliper. So this is gonna, if I can let you see it, as I'm squeezing the tool, it's depressing the piston. Wasn't such a great example because it popped out of there because the hanger is in the way. So let me grab that brake pad. And let me show you an example. And this is gonna get better because obviously I'm just starting the channel, so I don't have all the fancy camera holders and whatever. But this is gonna get better. So again, brake pad in the caliper, and you slide the tool in here as such. So it has a trigger that you pull, and as you pull this, it presses the piston in. It presses the piston. See? Easy. Cool. So it's fully depressed now. Now you can pull out the tool, and that piston is depressed. That's it. And then we want to hang this back up. Boom. All right, so caliper is safe, hose, everything is safe. Again, we want to wipe these side pins off, clean those off, apply the new grease. So I can provide you an example of that. Some paper towel, some shop paper towel here. And also, just for informational purposes too, this boot that's on this particular caliper piston, we always want to make sure that this is in good health, not swollen or falling off or breaking, because that can also cause seizing inside of the caliper bracket. And then we have a piston or a slide pin that's stuck, and then we have improper brake performance. We don't want that. Sometimes these slide pins have a bit of rust or buildup built onto it. You can also use a wire brush to just brush that stuff off, and obviously not putting the wire brush here to the rubber or to this boot, but if it has material built up here, you can use that to clean it off. And then with our caliper grease, again, I know this is probably long and drawn out for some who are experienced, but for the person that doesn't know, I believe this would be a pretty good help. So you're not gonna drench the caliper, the slide pin, which is what this is. You're not gonna drench it in grease. You just wanna make sure that it has lubrication on it, right? Because, I mean, obviously if it's too much, it's too much, right? And if it is too much, you can always use same shop paper towel tissue and wipe it off and reapply again. So that's just an example of how to do that. All right, so that is the removal